Welcome. Hello, everybody. This is Stephanie Fine Sassy. I am the founder of the Plenary Co., which is the nonprofit behind I Am a Scientist. I'm the co-creator of the I Am a Scientist program. And for anybody just joining that's unfamiliar with the I Am a Scientist program, it is a collection of resources to break stereotypes and barriers in classrooms and communities nationwide. So this particular program is part of our series for our RISE community. RISE stands for Resources for Inclusive STEM Education. And our goal is to provide not just our resources, but a wide swath of resources focused on inclusive STEM education for educators who are interested in bringing those to their classroom. So today, I'm very excited to be chatting with some of the team members behind the Open PTech platform, which is an awesome platform for a number of reasons. Foremost, it is a totally free platform that is available to you to make tech and professional skills available to your students. They're also one of our supporting partners, which makes it possible for us to bring tons of free posters to educators and classrooms nationwide. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check out our website, iamascientist.info, to request a free kit. So with that said, let's start with some introductions. The two team members that we have with us are Cliff Archie and Jared Ford. I'm going to bring them in now and turn it over to y'all to introduce yourselves. Cliff, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I'm Cliff Archie, as Stephanie said. I am a senior program manager of education with IBM's corporate social responsibility, and I co-lead our Open PTech platform development. I am a former educator, high school special education teacher. It's great to be with you all today, and we're really excited to support I Am a Scientist and the great work that they're doing because we're very mission aligned as an organization and as a platform.
Thanks, Cliff. Jared.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jared Ford. I am the program manager of PTech at PTech Panther in Paterson, New Jersey. And I am also a previous educator. I used to teach music in the high school level and dabbled a little bit in education research. So I'm happy to join the call and give some insight about what we do at PTech.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. So to get started, I'd love to hear a little bit about the origin story. So how did Open PTech come to be, and what are some of the key problems that y'all are working to solve with it?
Sure. So Open PTech has been an openly available free platform since March of this year. So we're still pretty new, just like I Am a Scientist. But it is an idea that really builds off of the heels of our PTech program and our PTech redesign model that Jared is very involved with at the moment. PTech, people always ask what the acronym stands for. Forgive us for it not being very eloquent or jazzy, but it stands for Pathways in Technology Early College High School, which is why we only refer to it as PTech now for obvious reasons. But it's been around since 2011, and it started as a public-private partnership in Brooklyn, New York in 2011. It's a partnership between IBM as the industry partner, the New York City Department of Education as the K-12 partner, and the City University of New York as the higher education partner. And what it was designed to do is really give a path to opportunity in STEM and in IT fields for students who are historically underrepresented in IT and in STEM. And so it was one school. There were no aspirations at the time to really expand beyond that, but very quickly it was an idea that had a lot of traction at the state level. We expanded to Illinois in 2012. Governor Cuomo in New York expanded it to the entire New York state in 2013 and 14. That was when I actually came to IBM. I had the same job that Jared now has in New Jersey at our school in upstate New York. And when I was on the ground in Newburgh, one of the things that really stood out to me was, a objective in PTech is to get students exposed to careers in STEM and to really give them a voice and a vision of what their careers could look like in an IT field, in a growing STEM field. We know at IBM and in plenty of other tech companies that emerging technologies are changing really every profession in some capacity. And all students, whether you want to be a software engineer or you want to be a teacher, need to at least have some fluency and awareness of how technology is changing things, and be an intelligent consumer of technology. But when we were working with students on the ground at schools, it was very difficult to find student-friendly, engaging, culturally responsive, and relevant content to introduce students who may never have thought about an IT pathway in their lives before, the concepts that are really going to hook them and engage them and get them interested and start building relevant skills. You could go to Coursera, you could go to a lot of other places for good entry points for college students or good entry points for those that already made up their mind they want to be in STEM and be in IT. But to really hook them into it and start that baseline skill and knowledge development was very challenging for me when I was at the school. I know a lot of my colleagues felt similarly. So fast forward a few years, P-TECH as a school model is now in over 220 schools globally, 24 countries. There's over 600 industry partners, so it's much bigger than IBM. But the commonality is that we're really trying to help students who are underserved historically, who are underrepresented in these growing fields, find a path and find a tangible way to build skills in a growing field and at a young age, not just wait until you're done with your secondary education, but do it early and do it at a time when you have at least some idea of what you're interested in, but need support in growing that interest. And so Open P-TECH is a fully free platform that is really designed to do exactly what I was speaking to. That's introduce students at a very introductory, student-friendly way to emerging technology, how it's changing a wide variety of fields, and also give them the baseline professional skills that we know every employer is looking for and every college is looking for, regardless of industry and regardless of pathway.
I love that. Yes, that is awesome. It's so important to be demystifying those career paths as actively as we can. So I really appreciate that about what y'all are doing. So I'd love to, actually, that's a great segue to what some of the barriers are specifically that you feel like were on your mind and were on the team's mind in the construction and design of Open P-TECH. So what barriers did you consider that are blocking students from pursuing these paths right now? And how did you sort of design with those in mind?
Yeah, so I'm curious to know what Jared hears from his students on the ground. I could give you the sort of CSR IBM perspective in building a platform like this. It's admittedly difficult to make very heady concepts like quantum computing, blockchain, machine learning, neural networks tangible and relevant at an introductory level to a 14, 15, 16-year-old. And so we had to invest in a really good instructional design team and a diverse team, those who are used to creating sort of like self-paced learning, mixed with former educators and current educators, so that we had the voice of the student in mind and really keeping our audience at the forefront of the development, not getting overly text heavy, not putting, your generic 45-year-old white dude in a blue button down in front of a screen talking at you for 60 minutes, which a lot of our internal education can take the form of at times, and really make a lot of what we know works for students show up on our platform. I think initially we had started out just trying to grab what IBM content was freely available and just make it publicly accessible. And it was very clear early on that there just wasn't enough good stuff that currently existed that would really resonate with a student, and particularly students who, are Black and brown, are from, backgrounds that are not often represented in a lot of the corporate training that you see, unfortunately. And so we made a very deliberate effort to partner with educators to get more multimodal learning, more video, more third-party resources that we know students are interested in and engaged with, to make the learning stick with them when they come to the platform and really, pique their interest so that they come back even if their teacher is not assigning it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead and jump in here, Cliff, as you said you'd like to hear my perspective. There are two important things about the platform as well that, are inherent to, its design. One thing is the access. We have designed this platform to, one, be accessible from your phone, but in any kind of computer device that, you can access the web on, the World Wide Web on, our platform is available. So that's a major barrier to, I know, for my students, for a lot of students who just don't have those same resources that, it's really been exposed during this COVID time, that those resources really come into play. And so, that's one thing. The other thing is really curating this content, one, to expose students, that exposure piece, and two, a way that's digestible for the students. And Cliff, eloquently articulated how we came to that destination. However, those are really the major barriers to our students getting out there and learning about these emerging jobs and these emerging technologies, because where else do you go to find out about quantum computing? Where do you go to find out the basics of AI or data science? And so that's really what makes Open P-TECH the game changer, because for high school students, having access to information about jobs, information about emerging technologies, it's rare. And we all say, yeah, go use Google. You have a teacher. Well, teachers have state standards that they must stick to, and it really provides little time for exploration, especially career and emerging technology exploration. And so this platform kind of brings all of that information right to the user. And so I think that's a testament to how we got to where we are with Open P-TECH today.
Oh, those are great answers. Thank you for sharing that. And to dive in a little bit more deeply into exactly what y'all are doing, let's talk about the specific topics that you all offer on the platform. So how did you choose them? What are they? How did you choose them? And why do you think these topics are so important to be bringing to students?
Yeah, so I think, not to get too into company speak here, but I think it is 100% true that every job, sooner than I think a lot of us think, is going to be shifted dramatically by emerging technology. AI is just one of several that are going to transform pretty much every job, and it's going to transform our consumer habits. And so when it comes to the content we're really focusing on, I would say 3 categories of content. One is, what emerging technology topics do we think every student needs to have fluency in order to understand, again, how it's shifting careers, how it might change their own consumer habits, how it might change the types of majors that they want to pursue when they get to higher education, just to be smarter about how the landscape is shifting when it comes to the job market they're going to be moving into in 2 to 5 years. The second is, what are the areas that are going to be really hot employment areas that we want students at younger ages to be aware of and start building skills in. So you can absolutely do the first without pursuing a job in those areas, but if your interest is piqued, we want you to feel like cybersecurity, cloud are areas that you are already building some knowledge and skills in that industry values as early as 14, 15, 16. And you can start adding digital badges to your LinkedIn profiles, to your resumes at a much younger age than you'd be able to otherwise, so that you can really think about careers that you might want to pursue in those hot growing fields that we know are going to be viable for a long time. And then thirdly, what are the broad, more all-encompassing areas of career exploration and initial job preparation that students certainly work on to a varied degree in K-12 and in their formal education, but don't often have as much bandwidth and time to really focus on directly. So we have professional skill content about the importance of critical and creative thinking with opportunities for reflection, thinking about how they manage their own time in their own workloads, how they are flexible in sort of their scheduling and in their delivery while still maintaining high quality work products. How do you actually practice mindfulness in your everyday life in a way that is going to support your own growth and development and allow you to stay confident and centered in a time that is incredibly disruptive, particularly to students who are at home all the time, who aren't seeing their friends, who aren't getting that sort of social interaction. And how do you prepare for a job when you don't actually have any work experience and you're looking for your first job? You've never written a resume before. You've never interviewed professionally. So it's really content that fits in each of those buckets, but broadly, it's emerging technology content that we at IBM certainly care about and have a point of view on, that it's shifting a lot of things in the job market. We want more and more young people to be aware of those trends. And then professional skills that are going to help you no matter what it is that you want to pursue. Just be a better employee, be a better student, and be more confident as you navigate your choices down the line.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you want to quickly walk us through what so there's cybersecurity, there's data science. What are the top level badges that you could earn.
Sure. I think I promise to anybody joining this, I'm not going to get overly PowerPoint heavy on you, but I do think that this would be a good opportunity just to share. Can you see my screen?
It's live.
Okay. So right now, as I mentioned before, there's technical topics, there's professional skill topics, and we also are curating a lot of really good content from third-party resources and putting it into what we call channels, similar to playlists, similar to just curated topic areas that are of interest to teachers and to students. And so right now, the badges that we offer, and again, these are digital badges that are industry validated, that a lot of IBMers have access to, but now students can earn them, add them to their LinkedIn profiles, to their resumes. We have 13 of them at the moment. That is always growing. We'll have 20 by the end of this year. It's representing about 60 plus hours of coursework, and you can only find this content on OpenPTech. So on the technical side, we have 2 AI badges, one that is just about the fundamentals of AI and the foundations of artificial intelligence, which we built with ISTE. Another is around building chatbots and learning how to work with machine learning and natural language processing. You can see some of the other technical topics that are here. And then on the professional skills side, we worked with NAF Academies to create a job application fundamentals course. That's really just showing that you actually understand how to research appropriately, how to build professional brands online for yourself, how to create a resume. Design thinking is one that we certainly think is relevant to any student and any educator who just wants to think about problems in a different way and in a way that sort of mirrors the technology industry, although it is not a technology only mindset and way of working. It's really a powerful methodology for just thinking about how to solve problems, think about how to get work done. So we offer a number of badges around that. And then we have a number of career topics that don't have badges associated with them, but are really built towards giving students tangible exposure. And that's where we're grateful to partner with I Am a Scientist. We're going to add some additional scientist spotlights onto some of these career vignettes that we have featured. We have a UX design one right now just to give students a feel for what it's like to work for a tech company in design. We're building out cybersecurity ones as well. So there's a good mix of technical and non-technical topics right now that students can earn credentials in. And then beyond that, we have a lot of other content that fits in those 2 buckets that we've curated and we've mixed together. Content on diversity and inclusion, on equity in the workplace, on coding, programming, areas that we don't feel like as IBM we necessarily need to reinvent the wheel on, because a lot of companies, nonprofits are doing this really well already. But we are allowing students and educators to just come to our platform as like a one-stop shop for all this good stuff.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. There's so many badges. I love this. I'm so excited for educators to learn more about what the options are here for their students, because there's really a lot of resources to dig into. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about the impact that you've had so far and get into some of the experiences and the stories that y'all have seen in terms of how OpenPTech has impacted students' lives and how you've seen this play out in the real world so far.
I'll answer that question, Stephanie. I am the program manager, and so pretty much I'm on the ground and seeing this technology being used in the classroom. And from what I can tell, a lot of workplace learning teachers use this platform to teach things like professional skills. But I've also seen this platform be used by some of our other teachers to, teach other subjects like. I'll take, for example, using the chatbot to build a study tool for, students that may be studying a different language, or helping them, collaborate among students. So the platform itself can be used in a few different ways in the classroom and outside of the classroom. I know in particular, my workplace learning teacher, he allows students to do some self-paced learning on it, but also he uses the platform to introduce topics to then follow up with some kind of project-based learning or assessment afterwards. So I'll take, for example, what we have coming up on October 29th. It's an event where we are doing a design thinking session with some IBMers and some students and some other very technical professional people. And so as a requirement for this, or prerequisite for this event, the teacher, the workplace learning teacher, assigned design thinking, earning the design thinking practitioner's badge, as a prereq, so they understand how to do design thinking, and then we practice design thinking with them. So it's a lot of, hey, here are the fundamentals. This is what you need to be successful in this topic or understand this topic, and then we apply to some kind of project-based learning or, some kind of assessment experience. And so, that coupled with the encouragement to do the self-paced learning and all of the myriad of options of badges and learning modules that you can tap into on the platform, teachers are able to really bridge a lot of topics and thinking about, communication. That's one of the professional skills that is taught on the Open PTech platform, and that kind of skill can be used in English, math, science, history. It's a transferable skill that I think a lot of teachers can take advantage of, and really spin those topics to then connect to topics in your classroom. So that's kind of what happens at Panther. But maybe Cliff, you might have another example.
Yeah, I wanted to expand upon what Jared was saying, because it's pretty common to see teachers using this episodically with students. Like, we just finished an assessment. We don't really want to start our next unit until, after a 1 week break. So I'm going to get them on Open PTech and have them do the design thinking course, or I'm going to have them do the job application fundamentals course. Like, whatever it is, there's a lot of different options. And I think it's important just to call out the fact that this is not like a curricular tool that would supplement or take the place of anything that you're already using. If you're a computer science teacher, if you're a college and career readiness teacher, if you are a workplace learning teacher, as Jared said, which is something that I know a lot of CTE programs have, it could definitely be a primary go-to tool, because we have a lot of teacher-facing resources and lesson plans available to you that coincide with the self-paced learning that Jared was talking about before. But I think the most common example of how this is applicable across subject areas is in the case where there's an opening in the schedule and teachers just want to get creative with how they're using that time. Particularly in an era of virtual learning, which is challenging, I know, for every single educator. We had teachers who just wanted to use Open PTech as a really creative solution at a time when they didn't feel like they could really focus on core curriculum. We had science teachers who had teachers in Compton, in Dallas, in upstate New York, none of whom were actually affiliated with our schools, by the way, but were just using it because they thought it was cool. They had them build COVID chatbots. So using our chatbot course and our What is AI channel on Open PTech to design chatbots that could help anybody who is just locally trying to know where to go get tested, what to do if I have symptoms, how effective are masks, were just some examples that we saw students, and some were like pulling in data through publicly available APIs into their chatbots. It was really cool.
That is so cool. What an awesome lesson. We should write that up and share it with everybody.
And there's no shortage of examples like that. I mean, we had stats teachers at the high school level who just wanted to push their students and had them go on the data science course and understand how, the question that we often get as educators from students, like, why do I need to know this? When am I ever going to use this? Well, data science is one of the most lucrative and growing career fields that we have out there. And stats is a huge prerequisite for understanding data science. So go take this course, earn the badge, understand how this math actually gets applied in the real world. That's just another example. And there's many more that would be considered more supplemental or, extension activities that OpenPTech enables. But, I just want to underscore the fact that it's all self-paced. Like, students, like Jared mentioned, can do it on their own encouragement from educators, but educators can also use it in a really blended fashion because we do have those lesson plans that align to all the self-paced content and create this nice loop that Jared was alluding to, where students might go home, they might take the self-paced content, but when they come back the next day or the next week on Zoom, in most cases, I would imagine at this moment, they're using the teacher-facing resources that we have to really synthesize and extend what the students learned independently.
Oh, that is awesome. So it's very much sort of mix and match. Pull what works for you, pull what works for your students, and what works for your classroom. You can go pretty deep in and really rely on it if it's a good fit for your subject matter, or you can just sort of pull in what's the most useful and what's the most complementary. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's well said.
Also, with that, some of the learning modules are gamified, and so it's not necessarily looked at as a task. More so as a professional development for high school students, if you will. But that aspect of it also adds value for the student as well. So I wanted to add that in there.
That's awesome. Thank you. And so let's get into some of the nitty-gritty practical side of things. If there's an educator watching that really wants to dive in and start using these tools, what are some of the basics, the sort of how it works basics? What do they need to know about the platform in order to get started?
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to do another screen share. And just let me know if, bear with me for 1 second. So there's a few things to know. I'll show the platform in a second here, but if you go to open.ptech.org, which is linked in the chat, you'll see just some of the topic areas that Stephanie, you were asking about before highlighted. And there's a page here called Teachers and Faculty. I highlight this because it'll walk you through the process of actually getting a teacher account. And then that's not obvious when you first visit the page because our sign up option is just a normal student account that anybody can sign up for. But as you go through that registration process, indicate that you're a teacher and then actually sign up your school in the process. And what that does is it allows our team to know you're an educator, you want your school to be added as an organization in our system. And when we do that, you all can then have the ability to add your own students to your account, to assign learning to your students when you have them in the platform, to track their progress. And so there's a lot of really rich administrative capabilities that come with your school being an org ID in the system. And don't worry, it's still entirely free. There's no strings attached to this. It's really just needing to know that you are interested in getting an org account for your school and you want your students to come to the platform and be assigned to you in the platform. And once you have that, you have features like the ones I'll show here where you go in to OpenPTech, you can check your advisor reports. And there's a few different things to think about as you go through this. If you want to pull, I want to see what, in this case, Leo has been doing on the platform. Leo's a colleague of mine, so I don't mind using him as an example. You could go to advisor reports, individual completion reports, click on his name, and it'll show you everything that he's been doing in the platform, when they've completed it, what they have in their learning queue. So these are things that they've said that they're going to start learning at some point. They just haven't gotten to it. If it's in progress, it'll show that as well, which means they've started it, but they haven't finished it yet. And so it gives you a really good indicator of what an individual student is doing in the platform. And then what I think is really great for educators is when you are doing some of the things that Jared was talking about and that I mentioned, like if you're doing the artificial intelligence course together as a class, you can go to these channel reports. These are called team completion reports. You just type in artificial intelligence or whatever the topic that you want to be doing together is. You can click on that, go to the ISTE AI course, click actions. And when you do that, you'll see team completion reports, and you'll be able to see everybody who's assigned to you in the system, what they have done, if they've completed it, if it's still in queue. I mostly have IBMers, so they haven't actually taken this course yet, so you won't see that. But for you all, when you add students to your account and you assign something, or you ask them to do it by X date, you'll be able to track their progress through those reports. So again, we definitely want to underscore that students can do this entirely on their own time, but there's a lot of really good teacher-facing tools to make this something that you can support your students in their own experience, and you can use it as an enrichment opportunity in your class. You'll see here when you have a teacher account, as you go through that sign-up process, one of the things we have when you first log in is a spotlight, and it'll just show you the different teacher-facing resources that we have in the system. Teacher resources for AI, for big data and data science, cloud, IoT, blockchain, preparing for the world of work. So again, that mix between technical and professional skills. And then I just want to focus on this for a second, because we had a team of educators actually create these teacher extensions for us. And each of them hits on certain essential skills: communication, collaboration, analytical thinking, self-management, entrepreneurship, responsible leadership, and finally, agility and cognitive flexibility. And there's a lot of them available here. They're really intended for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. And so you'll see that they're labeled year 1, year 3. We have year 2 coming very soon. That aligns to just what year you are in high school. So year 1 is really great for 9th graders. And when you click on these, you'll see that we have a whole lot of different bucket areas. So we have career vignettes, design thinking, AI, mindfulness, professional skills, and agile project management. This just shows you like how to track progress as you go through these as an educator. But then you can pull up these individual extensions and use them in your class. They look very much like a typical lesson plan might that you'd be familiar with. So, the common theme here is that there's a lot we are equipping educators with on the platform to use this with students. And, if you want your students to really get introduced to some of these emerging technology topics, really start their career exploration and preparation meaningfully, we're trying to take the onus off of you as educators to have to do that. A lot of these are very grab and go resources. It's self-paced learning for the students. And there's enrichment opportunities to really make it valuable for a student and to do in a supportive environment in the class.
That is awesome. That is a great overview. Thank you for walking us through the basics there of how to dive in. So to start shifting to wrapping up the conversation, I'd love to hear what y'all have planned for the future. What's next for Open P-TECH?
I'm realizing as you asked that I didn't answer your earlier question just about impact to date. And so I'll take that opportunity just to say that, again, we launched in March, and whether it's because of COVID, by the way, that was not intentional. We had been planning to roll this out in March long before there was any idea of a pandemic. But it as a digital learning platform, it had a lot of uptick, and we just crossed 100,000 users this week in over 150 countries. So we're proud of that. We're optimistic that that's a sign that more and more students and educators are going to be using this moving forward. I think when it comes to the future, we're going to continue building out our content to really be inclusive of the many layers of emerging technology skills that students are going to need to, sort of build their ladder to a career in STEM. Right now, we're very introductory, and that is by design because we felt like that's where the gaps were in the marketplace. There's plenty of places to go if you have a baseline skill set and you just want to learn how to learn Python or, some of these other really technical topics. There aren't really as many places, if any, to go to get the fundamentals. And so we're going to make sure that we have a comprehensive content bucket for all of the different fundamentals that would be relevant to a future career, to a student as you're sitting in 2021. And we want to make sure that we're spanning a wider gamut when it comes to career-ready content. I think in 2020, there's obviously been a natural spotlight on Black Lives Matter and the inequity and the lack of diversity in the workforce, particularly ours in IT. It's been a glaring weakness of the IT sector for too long. And I think one of the things we want to do is make sure that students, as they're taking this content, understand how to navigate the corporate world, navigate the world of IT, and understand some of the challenges that they may face, particularly as an underrepresented minority going into that type of environment. How you build strong mentoring connections, as an example, how you advocate for yourself, how you avoid some of the historical inequities that we've seen, and not putting the onus on the student by any means, but just allowing them to build that level of confidence and familiarity with what it's like to walk into a workplace where you're probably going to be surrounded by a lot of people who don't necessarily look like you or are from the same background as you. And so we want to work on that type of content. And we would just want to build out the visibility of OpenPTech as a career exploration solution for schools across the country and across the globe.
That's great. That's a good plan for the future. I love it. So the last question is about calls to action. So everybody watching right now, any educators that are excited to engage, what is the next step? Like, what do they do right now? What are the calls to action? What can they take away from this and get started on?
Go to open.ptech.org, visit that teachers and faculty tab, sign up for an account yourself, and follow the steps to sign up your school. While you are more than welcome just to go into the platform as an individual learner, see what we have to offer, our hope and our belief is that you'll like what you see and that you'll want your students to get on the platform. And so we just want to make sure that you take advantage of that administrative capability. Email a member of our team. There's contact information on that page. Let us know that you want that administrative capability. We'll set you up with an account within 24 hours. And you will then have the opportunity to add students to your instance of OpenPTech and really take advantage of the supportive environment that we've tried to build for educators that want to go through OpenPTech with their students. And there's contact information everywhere on the site. We are a small but mighty team that really wants to empower educators and students as they navigate OpenPTech. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we will make sure that you are feeling like this is something you can really dig into when you have the time and the bandwidth.
Yeah, and also, share this information with, any young individuals that may be looking to explore new career options and new technology. Maybe they're a freshman in college and they're undecided on a major and they're trying to find out, well, what does the future hold as far as, careers and what would be foundational. So please share this platform with as many up and coming young individuals that are looking for this exposure. And I think knowledge is power, and giving them a platform where they can one-stop shop to find what should I be looking for the future is always a good thing. So
that's awesome, Neil. And is there anything else you'd like to share about the platform before we wrap up? Any other stories or ideas or impact examples that you'd like to share?
I just say that, this is not exclusive. I think sometimes people get intimidated that, oh, well, it's all technology and I don't really understand anything about AI. And, I'm a English teacher, so I'm not going to touch it. I just echo Jared's point that, you could share it with, your other educators at your school. You could share it with students who might benefit from it. But I assure you that you do not have to be a subject matter expert in any of these areas to feel comfortable using this with your students. We built the platform with that premise in mind that, you as educators have plenty on your plates. You don't need to become experts in blockchain or in, cloud or any of these other things. But it's still important that students have as many opportunities to learn about those things as possible. And having an educator do it with them can be a really empowering experience for both the student and the teacher. And so we do have examples of where, the teacher said, I've always wanted to learn more about AI. I never knew where to start. I'm going to assign this to my students and I'm going to take the same badge course. They get the same badges their students do. And it becomes, the students and teachers sort of teaching each other as opposed to it being your historical, teacher to student education knowledge transfer. And that can be a really empowering experience for both parties. So I'd encourage you to not feel intimidated by the topics that we have, and view it as a learning opportunity for you and your students.
I love that. That's such a great point. Yeah, there's so much constantly new in technology to explore. So why not learn with your students? So, all right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing this sort of behind the scenes look at Open P-TECH. I'm going to pull y'all off the screen now. So thank you so much for joining us. And for anybody who needs any additional information about how to sign up for Open P-TECH, feel free to get in touch with us. Feel free to sign up for the RISE community on Facebook. You can post questions there. If you are using Open P-TECH in your classroom, you can share your stories with us there as well. And we are more than happy to have any conversations with you to connect you with the Open P-TECH team to support you however you need. So just let us know. And if you don't already, you can follow us on Twitter at IamASTEM. And thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in our next live stream, which is coming up next Monday with Raven, the Science Maven. Thanks, y'all.